Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom. It's just that easy.
It's just that easy.
I don't sound like you when I say bada bing, bada boom.
It still sounds good though.
Yeah, okay.
G'day viewers and listeners, Ed Fox and my co-host Lisa Smith, and today our guest is Randy Lee from the Flipping Car Genius, or the Car Flipping Genius. Your head's in the way, Randy, so I don't know which way that the Car Flipping podcast with Flipping Genius. You're a flipping genius.
He's a flipping genius.
There you go. And so this is the Bada Bing, Bada Boom podcast.
It's just that easy.
It is just that easy. And so, Randy, I'll let Lisa introduce you. Lisa, why don't you tell us tell us the good stuff about Randy.
Oh, the good stuff that I know. He's probably the most knowledgeable person in Barter. When I became a member of Trade Bank Huntsville and then eventually a broker and now the regional owner, Randy was kind of my go-to person to ask questions. He always knew the answer, or he could point me in the direction to find the answer. So that was just that easy for me to talk about Randy. Plus, I have to share, it always embarrasses him, but I'm sharing it anyway. He has one of my favorite trade bank stories or barter stories. And we'll ask him about that during this talk. So I'll leave it at that. And he's also a flipping genius. So he's a podcaster.
Right. So we want to find out about that too. So Randy, how long have you been involved in the barter industry as a client?
Well, I think, I don't have documentation, but I believe it's been since about 1992.
Wow.
I've been active ever since then.
Right. And you stay in because it doesn't work at all, right?
It's completely changed my life. I mean, and if my beautiful wife was here, she would vouch for me on that. And the cool thing is she's a very conservative person where I'm an outside the box kind of thinker, right. But she sees the benefit in our daily life from being involved in barter.
So since you brought up your beautiful bride, I want to just lead in with one of my favorite trade bank stories about Randy, and I'll let him tell it. So what's special, Randy, about that day every month that you do for your beautiful bride?
Well, I guess, I was raised in a big family. We had 6 kids. We had a little 1,100 square foot house, and we loved Christmas. And I guess that's probably where this came from. And I met Terry and Christmas like I always did. And I never found anybody that appreciated it as much as Terry did. So I started, I think at some point, the idea that I had to do Christmas every day of the month of December. And so I did. And for years, I've been doing it every day of the month of December. I give her a gift. And someplace a couple of years ago, I decided, well, why wait till December? So each 25th of each month, we have Christmas at my house. It's January Christmas, February, March Christmas is coming up on March 25th. And she'll get a present. She always says, you don't have to do that. But, and I know I don't have to, but it's just fun. And it could be something small or it can be something pretty damn huge. But it's and frankly, I think the reason Lisa says it's one of her favorite barter stories is I'm a cheap dude, man. I am very cheap. But when it comes to barter, it allows me to do things I wouldn't normally do. So I think it was August Christmas last year, Terry got a beautiful pearl and diamond ring that was, I don't know, a couple $1,000. And that's what I pay for cars. I don't buy jewelry. Right. But with barter, I was able to do that.
That's awesome.
And plus, I've had a lot of fun introducing new members to Randy so that they can help him with his Christmas every month gift. So it's been a lot of fun for me. So I know, Randy, it's no secret. You've shared with me over the time that we've known each other that you are in a number of barter groups, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Which one's your favorite?
That'd be tough to come on and say anything other, but really, very honestly, Trade Bank's been my favorite podcast. My favorite barter organization. I think right from the get-go. The very first one I joined was a little independent, and I'm still a part of that, but it's been sold. And the 2 other organizations I belong to are bigger than Trade Bank. They're both sold on the New York Stock Exchange. But Trade Bank I believe, has the best system for transactions. It's beautiful. And I've been around where we use the paper and you had to call in and get approval. Now I pull my phone out, I scan a little barcode, I put the money right into their account. And amazingly, one of the reasons I love Trade Bank right now is because of Lisa. Lisa has done such a job of training new members on how to do these transactions. So not just the owner, but the kids that work at the restaurant, they know how to do it. And it's so easy to do. Another reason I love it is a word that I thought of almost immediately when I met Lisa, and that was the word community. And Lisa is building a community right here in Huntsville, Alabama. Now I'm a big nationwide trader. I'll trade, I'll barter with anybody, any place. I'll sell you anything, and I'll be happy to take your money, put it in my account. And when I want to buy something, I will find a way to do it. But right here in our backyard, Lisa's building a great community of businesses that want to work together, and that is fantastic. I love a lot of the folks that I've worked with in trade, but I've never seen anybody do it like Lisa's doing right now.
Oh, come on. I had big shoes to fill. You came from an amazing region in Chattanooga. Jurgen runs an awesome region.
He does.
He's one of my best friends, and I miss him. But hey, Jurgen, come on, you got to step it up.
I didn't say that, Jurgen.
Yeah, we'll leave that part in just so Jurgen can hear it. Yeah, we appreciate that. Well, we appreciate the kind words, and I second everything you say about Lisa. She's a newbie on the trade bank scene, but not new at building community and building networks with the years she's worked with BNI and other things that she's done, and as a solid business owner outside of trade bank in her own right too. So, yeah, I that's one of the reasons I partnered with Lisa. She's part of my tribe, and I saw that the way we did things was going to work really well together. And I like the way she treats her clients. That's the number one thing for me. I don't care about virtually anything else. I mean, it all matters, right? To run a solid, strong business. Mm-hmm. But the first thing is, if you don't take care of your clients, you don't have a business. And that, to me, every time I talk to Lisa and watch her in action and stuff that she's doing, that reminds me that, yep, this is why I've chosen to partner with her to do this podcast, is because she epitomizes a lot of the stuff that I value as well. Now, that's enough about bragging on Lisa. She'll get
yeah, really. Let's talk about the Flippin' Genius podcast, since we're on the subject of podcasts. I want to know more. Share with our listeners what a flipping genius is.
Well, I guess about 13 years ago, I got involved in the car business with no previous experience whatsoever. And I got a dealer's license. And over the last 13 years, I've built a business around the used car business. And it really is not my natural thing. I don't know how to turn a wrench. My mechanic says if you see Randy under the hood of a car, it means you ran him over. And that's pretty accurate. But I've managed to flip cars, buy and sell cars for a profit. I don't know. It's well over 1,000 now. And we keep building on that. I work in a very modest price range. And what I discovered, that there's a ton of people out there who are flipping houses. And I've done some of that too. I think Lisa's done some of that. Mm-hmm. And that's real cool and real sexy, but it's expensive. But cars can be done for a lot less money. And usually the time turnaround is a lot quicker, and the margins are usually even better. So that's what the Flipping Genius is about. It's a podcast that started in January of 2000, and today we're heard in 37 countries in every state in the union. We have 18 Facebook groups around the country, Flipping Genius used car groups where people buy and sell cars. Our local Facebook groups have over 40,000 members in them. And we hope to grow our groups in Phoenix and Detroit and Salt Lake City and all over the country to be that size. We also have a Flippers Forum where our listeners can get together and exchange ideas and try to help each other make more money. That's the number one goal of the Flipping Genius podcast, is help our listeners make more money. And it takes a lot of effort. We're on episode 60. I'll record this afternoon.
Cool. And how can they find you?
Go to flippinggenius.com with one Let's see, what's this one over here?
FLIPPINGENIUS, Flippin'
Right.
Genius.
Yeah, so it's Flipping Genius, or just search Flipping Genius wherever you listen to podcasts. We're everywhere, and we also have a Flipping Genius YouTube channel. We actually just started doing. We wanted to be like you, so we started doing our podcast on video just in episode 58, and it's exciting because we're already seeing a big bump in our numbers because most guys like to use YouTube.
Right.
So we're excited about the growth. And whenever I talk about myself, I call myself we, by the way.
Right. Yeah, I get it. I do the same thing. It deflects. It helps deflect off you and yeah. Question. So how did you get started in Barter? How did you get brought into the Trade Bank network?
I think that's one of my favorites. That's my favorite Trade Bank story. My favorite Barter story is I had a clothing business. I've owned a lot of businesses. I'm a little bit like you, Ed. I love your story, by the way.
Thanks.
And I owned a men's clothing business. We would visit you at your office, and I would hard sell you, and you would wind up buying an enormous wardrobe from me. That was the short version. And it was a very successful little company called the Atlantic Fashion Company in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And one day, a guy named Johnny Eagle walked in the door. And Johnny Eagle wasn't his real name, that was his radio name. And Johnny, in about 5 minutes, explained to me how barter worked. And I'm not the kind of guy that takes a long time to make decisions. I just said, sounds good, Johnny, let's do it. Now, Johnny owned his own private barter company called Eagle Barter. And we signed up. I signed up again, we.
Right.
And by 10 o'clock, I think that was around 8:30 in the morning. By 10 o'clock, Johnny called me and said, hey, do you know a place called Wally's Restaurant? And I said, yeah, I eat there all the time. And they said, well, he said, they're members too. They'd like to buy some clothes. So I went down there and met with them, I think at 1 o'clock that afternoon. And they bought about $4,500 worth of clothes from me.
Wow.
And they wanted to buy some shoes. And I said, guys, I've never gotten any of this funny money, this barter money before. So before I let you buy shoes too, let me just make sure this works for me. I'll order these other suits and shirts because I didn't carry any inventory. I did it all off of Swatch books. And I'll make sure your order comes in. We'll get everything fitted for you. And by then I'll know whether or not this is going to work for me. And if it works, we'll get shoes. So in 2 weeks, I came back, fitted their suits, got all their shirts and their ties, and I sold them about $2,200 worth of shoes. And by then I had already rented cars. I had already eaten at restaurants. I had already had my clothes laundered. I'd had alterations done for my business. My new tailor was part of my network. I was so sold on it that I never turned back. And within probably, I don't know, 6 months of that, or sometime there, I met Jurgen Mutz and I joined Trade Bank and have been a member of Trade Bank ever since. So it's time kind of gets jumbled around this old head. But
what is it about organized barter that appealed to you, though? I mean, I'm sure you were one of those people that could barter anytime, anywhere with a lot of people. But what is it about being a part of a multi-directional barter or an organized barter that made sense to you?
Oh, it's just a brilliant concept. I think about it like for those guys, the guys down there at Wally's Restaurant. How long would I have to eat in their restaurant to pay for one of their suits? I mean, I eventually got to over 400 pounds, largely from eating at Wally's Restaurant, but it wasn't intentional. Yes, so that one-on-one trade just would have never happened. I had to. They needed to sell to a lot of people, a lot of buffets to people to buy clothes from me. So that was just one example. Another little store there was a local car rental place that I rented cars from all the time. I sold clothes, men's clothes. Donna's car rental, she was a woman. She didn't wear men's clothes. There was not going to be a deal there. So in every time I turn around, I can see that it makes no sense to just do a one-on-one trade. I mean, every now and then I'm in the vehicle business, so we do some trades, but I don't think there's any way to replace what you guys do. It's a fantastic system. And every time I get a chance to tell a business owner about it, I tell them because I know I'm doing them a favor if they'll just listen to me.
Does the broker play a role in the way that you use your trade bank account? Does a broker play a role for you?
Oh, certainly. I'm very self-sufficient, and I will pick up the phone and I'll go to my website. I'll go to the app and I'll look up people in Atlanta or people in Nashville, and I'll call and try to get something working because I know I can, and nobody represents me like I represent me.
Right.
But I'm delighted that I have strong assistance from Tamara and Lisa and all the folks that we work with who go to bat for me and look for new things. And Lisa keeps signing new people up. What an awesome thing. I mean, I'll give her any lead I can think of, but she's out there on the streets a lot more than me. She's moving and shaking. I'm mostly just in here flapping my gums talking about cars.
Right. Lisa, do you have other questions?
Well, I will drop a hint, Randy. I have the next 25th gift all wrapped up for you. It's going to be so special.
All right.
We'll have a side conversation about that.
That sounds great. That's great.
What would you
Just signed
tell
him up this week?
Randy, what would you tell somebody else looking at Trade Bank for the first time? Maybe they're not familiar with a multi-directional barter platform like Trade Bank. What would you say to them?
Well, everyone makes decisions at a different pace. So I know most people don't make decisions at the pace that I do. Now, I have to admit that I think that you're wrong if you don't, but that's just me. Trade Bank has changed my family's life. It allows us to live a better life. We go on vacations. We get involved in transactions and business opportunities that we never would have. I own real estate in the state of Oklahoma because of Barter. I have relationships with people I would have never met. And some of my favorite friends have come from transactions with people in Barter, including a fellow I just met a couple weeks ago out of Florida who actually started another podcast after we talked. Barter people are some of my favorite people to do business with because it seems to just multiply your opportunities. So what I would tell you is just do it. Just do it and thank me later.
And send you a big fat check, right?
Yeah. And listen to the Flippin' Genius podcast.
Absolutely. We talk about Barter on Flipping Genius too, because part of what I do is always involved in Barter. And Lisa, of course, was a guest in episode 15 of the Flipping Genius. And I talk about the Barter business as it relates to all of my businesses during the Flipping Genius, because it's just part of my life.
What's the one thing that you've done with Trade Bank, even in all your years in Barter, that surprised you with being able to do? Is there anything that sort of sticks out?
You know, it doesn't. See, because I expected to be able to barter for everything. That's just
He's
my
not
thought.
kidding. He really does.
Right.
A guy came over the other day to do some work on the house, and it was going to be a fairly expensive job, and he was a strong salesman. I did admire him because he was using every technique. And he said, well, sometimes this can cost $10,000, $11,000. He said, but here's what our price is usually, and it's like $5,500. He said, what did you expect to pay? How would you expect to pay for this? And I said, well, frankly, I would expect to pay for it with barter money. Are you a member of a barter exchange? And he didn't know what that is. And I said, see, we've got a problem already, because that's how I expect to pay for everything. And we did eventually work out a deal, but
right.
Believe me, he didn't get anywhere close to 5,500.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I tell people, look, if you've got a salesperson that's local and is calling you, give them my cell number. I'll talk to anybody. I'll talk to, I don't like cold calling out as much as I like getting those calls from salespeople. Now, I just start off, hey, are you guys a local company? Oh, yeah, we're a local company. Okay, are you the owner? No, I'm not the owner. I work there. I said, look, I own a barter exchange. Everything I do is barter. If you want to sell me advertising, if you want to sell me marketing, I'd love to do it. Let's figure out how we can barter. Oh, well, I don't have permission to do that. Well, then get me somebody on the line that has permission to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I love it. My phone number, my cell number is everywhere. 316-200-4135. There you go. Call me. I don't mind. No, I'll
Absolutely.
talk to anybody. Same thing, right? Because Barter changed my life. And I talked a little bit about that in my story. But for me, I had bartered since I was a kid. I had a fish and chip shop and video rental shop. And barter was the mainstay of everything we did in business. I never had any cash in the wallet. I'd walk into a store downtown and say, hey, come out and get some movie rentals and give me that book. Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, I loved your, I think it was your second episode. I loved listening to your story. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks. Anything else from you, Lisa? We're about out of time, but.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate you for being here.
That was a blast. Everybody listen to The Flipping Genius and tell everybody about it. Subscribe. If you got extra time, spend it on my website. If you got extra money, spend it with my all my resources.
Hey, thanks, Randy. We really appreciate you being here. And we will have all of Randy's information on our YouTube channel and Facebook page with his contact information for the Flipping Genius podcast and how to get a hold of Randy. So, Randy, if you can send that over to us, I'll make sure to add that to everything that we do.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you being a guest.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom. It's just that easy.
It's just that easy.
I don't sound like you when I say bada bing, bada boom.
It still sounds good, though.
Yeah, okay.